and we're going to tackle a somewhat serious situation going on here in North Carolina, which is a drought, which many of us here in Chatham County are aware of. And I just want to say that I've got a special guest with us today. I've got Klaus Albertin, sorry about that, from the North Carolina Division of Water Resources, the Water Supply Planning Group. And I had a couple of questions that we're going to go through with him, and he's going to let us know what's going on with the drought situation here. Give you a little bit more in-depth analysis of the article we had posted earlier in the week, and we're going to try to concentrate on Central North Carolina. Klaus, first question is: can you provide kind of an overview of the drought conditions here in Central North Carolina around Chatham County, and I guess most of it's affecting the western part of the state?
Yeah. The worst conditions definitely are out west. Here in the Triangle, and especially in Chatham County, it's really only been the last couple of weeks that we've gone into moderate drought. Before that, the whole area has been in, it's considered abnormally dry conditions. Wake counties kind of bounce in and out of that. They've just been right on the borderline of abnormally dry. Chatham County, Durham, Orange County has been abnormally dry pretty much since August. Just kind of really have gotten some rainfall, but missed out on some of the heavier stuff that came into Wake County.
What are some of the factors that contributed to this, the severity of the drought? As you mentioned, you got severe to moderate drought conditions, and what's contributed to both the severity and the duration of this drought?
Yeah. Well, the two big things, it's all precipitation driven. And so the two big places that we get rainfall from in the late summer into fall is, tropical storms or hurricanes. Usually we'll get one or two that drop heavy rain out in the coast, but also throughout the Piedmont, and sometimes, some of it, the track will go all the way into western North Carolina. We really didn't see that this year. We had Idalia and Ophelia, which had some localized impacts down in Whiteville and Wilmington, but kind of just barely got into Wake County. So Chatham County didn't really see much from that. And then the other place that we get rainfall from is the Gulf Stream coming, or the jet stream coming across the U.S. From the west. And if you look at the drought map, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama are in really terrible shape. I mean, it's they're in extreme to exceptional drought. So, normally the wind patterns would pick up moisture going over the Gulf Coast and drop it in North Carolina. And just because it's been so dry out there, any fronts that we have gotten haven't brought much rainfall. And if it does bring some, it'll drop it at the mountains. But again, the western part's in the worst shape, so it hasn't really dropped any significant rainfall across North Carolina.
This wasn't one of the questions I had on there originally, but talking about, you mentioned the rain's possibly dropping in the mountains, but it's not, that's still a dry area. I know sometimes during wintertime, we have storms that come up from the south versus storms that come in from the west. Are there any kind of specific drought patterns or are there certain weather conditions or patterns that come about that cause the drought that we're experiencing right now?
Well, again, it's really just the weather patterns that have dried out the Gulf Coast. And, we've been getting some of the same fronts. They just haven't been bringing the moisture that they normally would. Obviously the Weather Service is the better place to ask about specific, weather processes that have caused that. But, again, just a lot of highs that just haven't brought any moisture to us.
All right. And how do the current conditions compare to historical patterns? I think I had talked with Josh about this earlier. He had said that, this is something that happens every few years. And I think there was a similar drought a few years ago. So how does this compare to historical patterns? And are there any notable trends or anomalies?
Yeah. Again, really the anomaly this year is just the fact that we haven't been getting rainfall from tropical storms or hurricanes in the east, and we haven't been getting anything coming from the west. So just those two at the same time have caused this drought. Chatham County, the Triangle are in moderate drought, but it really, for our area, it hasn't gotten too bad yet. The reservoir levels are down. You can definitely see that. Stream flows are down, but it's nothing like they're seeing out in Western North Carolina. I think over the last 2 months, we've seen about, half of our normal rainfall. And out in Western North Carolina, they're at, maybe 10%. So, really significant deficits out west. Not too bad here just yet, but we are definitely starting to see impacts.
Speaking about impacts, and you're involved with the Division of Water Resources, so that the next question is, how does this drought affect certain sectors in North Carolina, including agriculture, water supply ecosystems, and local communities?
Yeah. If we were going to have a drought, this is probably the best time for it. Agriculture didn't do too bad this year. We got, some rainfall at, given times, and it was enough to keep crops, fairly healthy. It really started setting in during harvest period when agriculture, kind of prefers it to be drier. Now it is going to be affecting pasture and any crops, winter crops that they want to plant, but agriculture hasn't been impacted too badly. In the Chatham Triangle area, ecosystems, should still be doing fairly well. Stream flows are low, but not at historic lows by any means. So, fish and amphibians and things should still be able to find areas that are suitable habitat. And then, water supply, like I mentioned, Jordan Lake and Falls Lake are both low for this time of year. This is normally when they'd be at pretty full pool. That's really because, like I mentioned before, Chatham, all the way up to Guilford County, where Jordan Lake gets its inflow from, has been pretty dry since August. And the Corps of Engineers has to play this balancing act in August, September, where they want to have storage in case we do get a big hurricane, but they also need to keep flow and water levels at a good level because the demand is still pretty high. So, so again, since August, the stream flows to Jordan have been coming down, but levels are still in fair shape. I just took a look, the water supply pool for Jordan Lake, I think it was at 85%. So there's no significant impacts for that yet.
Yes, there were a couple of articles recently. I think the Jordan Lake level has gone down enough that some of the old communities that were buried underwater have now popped up, and people are examining the remains, because that was fertile farmland before it was flooded for flood control and water supply purposes. What do you see as the potential long-term effects on this, or do you see this as part of the cycle that it's going to even out over, the next few months? I think when I and Josh had talked about this, he had mentioned that during the wintertime, there are certain conditions that come into play. So what do you see as the long-term effects of this current drought?
Yeah. Hopefully there really shouldn't be any significant impacts. If this was, say May, June, or middle of the summer, we would be much more concerned, just because, we know that we have a few months of very dry conditions and high demand coming up. But with it being November, demand from water supplies, people aren't watering their lawns, and agriculture is fairly dormant. So demands are low, and usually there's a pretty good recharge at this time of year. And the benefit, or hopeful benefit this year, is it's supposed to be a El Nino year, which tends to bring warmer, wetter conditions throughout North Carolina. We're definitely not seeing it just yet, but from kind of all indications, that is still in the forecast. And, even looking at next week's potential rainfall, it's kind of suggesting that we will start getting into a wetter pattern, and hopefully are in good shape by, the late winter.
All right, let me finish up with one last question. I know one of our local fire departments, Moncure Fire Department, put out a warning, basically a do not burn warning. But are there water conservation practices that communities are taking? And as an individual, what can I do to help do my part when it comes to water conservation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the first thing that the public can do is take a look at their community's water shortage response plan, and that'll be posted on the Division of Water Resources website. Every public and large private water supply has to have a water shortage response plan, and that'll say when we hit this level of whatever the triggers are for that community. When it hits those triggers, it'll specify what kind of restrictions or conservation measures that people can do. And, each plan will lay out what those things are. It may be, reduced watering of outdoor plants, cutting back on car washing, things like that. But the best place to look for what, each community needs to do at a given time is that water shortage response plan or the town's website.
All right, that was my last question. Is there anything else folks in Chatham County or anyone else who's watching this video need to know about the drought, or basic information that they need to know?
Yeah, again, the best place to look is the community's website, see what conservation measures are in place. And again, if we're going to have a drought, this is one of the best times to have it. Just demands are low. So hopefully El Nino does bring enough rain, not too much rain, and we just have a good wet winter.
Fantastic. Mr. Klaus, thank you for speaking to us, folks. There's a little bit more information as to what's going on in the drought conditions. We will be writing up a story on this, and Mr. Klaus and I have talked about this previously. We will have a link to the Division of Water Resources site, so you can take and you do an update, I believe, on the maps every Thursday. So you can just go on there and be able to click on it and take a look at it. I found the map to be very helpful because it visually lets you see there are parts of Chatham County that are affected by the severe conditions down towards the western southwest corner, and the rest of us are all in medium drought conditions. So we will be going offline here in about 3 seconds. Mr. Klaus, thank you very much again.